Hello everyone, Rachel here, Treehouse Knits, episode 39. How are you guys? It's been a few weeks since my last confession. It's been a few weeks since my last podcast, and I have a ton of stuff to show you. If you could see everything around me right now that I want to show you, I think you'd be excited because you're like me. That's why you're here. So anyways, why don't we jump in right now and get started? Again, I'm Rachel, Treehouse Knits Podcast. You can find me mostly on Instagram. I am on Facebook, and I'd like to get going a little bit more on Facebook as well. So you'll find me there under Treehouse Knits. And thank you to those of you who participated in the New to You mail that was really led by the ladies from the Cocktail Hour at the Coop. Thank you so much, ladies. You did such a great job with that knit along, that make along, and winners have been announced. The winner that was randomly chosen from here is Hot Pink Socks Review, and she has her prize from me headed to her. She might even get it while I'm podcasting. I sent it a few days ago, so thank you for that. So that Mal or Cal is now technically closed. Since I was here last, I had a wonderful trip with just my husband to Napa Valley in California. For those of you who don't live here in the States, Napa is an area of the United States that's known for its grape growing and wine making. And while it is winter there, it was a beautiful time to visit. I'll insert a couple of pictures here. We were with our really close friends from Tacoma, Washington when we lived there. They were our neighbors, and we just had a great time catching up. Our house was really small. It was two-bedroom, actually it was three-bedroom, one bath, but one of the bedrooms was really tiny. But it was all we needed. We had a beautiful, small size, great room that had windows that overlooked beautiful vines. I've never seen the vines in Napa without the leaves on them, so it was interesting to see how different varietals or different types of grapes are pruned differently. It was just a really neat time to be there. We saw the workers in the vineyards trimming the vines. I was so tempted to take a bunch of the grapevines and make it into a wreath, but I couldn't figure out how to get it home. I went into the vineyard area, and they had stacks of them that I'm assuming they were gonna burn, and they were so perfect to use for a grapevine wreath, but couldn't figure it out. We had a great time. My friend Lori and I used to knit together in Washington State, so when we got together here in Napa, she decided that she wanted to get back into knitting. She hasn't really knit much since I left. And she wanted to knit a hat. So we ended up going to a really cute yarn store in Napa in the city center called Yarns on First. I couldn't find a presence here on Instagram or even on Facebook for them, but it was a wonderful store, and the owner was Marcy. I think that was her name. She had great yarns. The biggest difference in her store from any other store I've been in is that it's color organized by color instead of by weight. So it was a really interesting exercise in finding yarns. At first I had a hard time at first, but then as I got into it, I realized that I was really looking at all of the yarns. So maybe it's a good way of getting customers in there to look at all the yarns, and I don't know. I haven't decided if I liked that or not, but she had amazing yarns, and I could not pass up. I'll share with you in acquisitions trying a particular yarn brand that I've never tried before, and just a spoiler alert, I loved it, and I ended up knitting a hat. So anyways, that trip was wonderful. I got so much sleep. I just caught up nicely with my friend Lori, and had great food, great wine. It was just a really nice trip. So I hope you enjoy some of the pictures that I'll put in here. We had a few questions that were down below in the comment section from the last episode. Erin, my friend Erin, asked how I make color choices. And her other question was, where do I buy hand-dyed floss? So today I am going to talk a bit about my cross-stitching as well. But why don't we start with the how I make my color choices? That is a big question. And without getting into color theory, you know, when I first started knitting, I was just attracted to wild colors and was buying yarn without a project in mind, and was finding that when I would create or complete a project using the yarns I was buying, it wasn't necessarily something I'd wear. So what I enjoyed knitting with and what I was attracted to was not something that I ended up wearing. So I've become better at holding back on buying the crazy yarns and buying yarn that will be lovely to knit with, but maybe I would like the colors better on me than what I was picking. So nowadays what I try and do is decide, first of all, well, there's some different ways about it. Sometimes I find a pattern that I absolutely love. I go into my stash and I have the perfect yarn for it and I just go for it, even if the colors aren't necessarily what I might have picked in the store. And that works fine for me. One thing that I think about though when I'm doing a project, when I'm getting the materials for the project, is do I want the item to be relaxing and ethereal and subtle? If so, then I will choose colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And I can't reach my color wheel right now, but colors that are next to each other on the color wheel tend to be colors that are more soothing and relaxing. If I want something and I might do that in a shawl, let's say, or a sweater that I'm gonna wear, that I wanna get a lot of wear out. Now, if I want something that is high contrast, I will pick colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So when I'm doing, for example, color work mittens, or any type of color work that I would like it to really pop. Now there's times where you want color work to be relaxing and ethereal, and it doesn't necessarily have to pop, but if I'm doing a color work pattern that I really want to see that motif pop, I will pick its complementary color. Another thing that I'll do when I want to make sure that something will pop in color work is I'll squint my eyes when I'm looking at the skeins of yarn. And you can tell which ones are brighter when you squint and which ones are not. And if there's a contrast when you squint, there's a good chance that it's going to work well in your project. I know a lot of people also put their colors on a printer machine and just make a printout of black and white, and that's another great way to see if the colors are gonna blend into each other or if they're gonna be contrast. So, you know, that's just kind of a high level how I choose my colors. I love all color, and you know, something that's interesting I'm finding is when I'm trying to figure out multiple colors for a project, I will pick first the color. Well, first I'll pick the main color that I want the item to be, and then I'll choose the colors I think will be nice with it. But then I kind of challenge myself to choose one of the colors that I would never pick, that I hate on its own. And a lot of times that really awful color on its own in my head, there's no such thing as awful colors, but that particular color that I'm not drawn to will look amazing with the other colors. It just makes the other colors look better, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. If you want more information on color, I highly recommend that you go to visit, oh, what's her name? From Sweet Georgia. She has a School of Sweet Georgia that has a free online class all about color, and she's someone that clearly understands color. So go to Sweet Georgia. I think the website is, and I'll put it down below in the notes, School of Color, something like that. So check that out if you want to take a quick class. The handouts are really nice. Actually, our guild, I facilitated that class with our guild, and it was one of the more popular classes that we've done so far this year. So check that out. Okay, so her other question, Erin's other question, I was talking about the flosses that I was using in my cross stitching. And when I got back into cross stitching, it was fun to see that cross stitchers have also embraced hand dyed, and there's a lot of hand dyed flosses out there and hand dyed fabrics out there that cross stitchers and stitchers in general are using. And well, why not, right? So the two types of materials that are in floss, really cotton and silk are the main ones that I'm seeing. And I just wanted to kind of show you some of the hand-dyed flosses that I have, and they're kind of hard to see. But this one is from a company called Weeks Dye Works. There's the tag. And you can see it's got whites and grays in it, and this looks really good. I'll show you later the church that's in my cross stitch. It makes it look like not solid, that it's brick, or that it's stone, I should say. So it's really neat how, like, if you need to stitch a barn, instead of just doing solid red, choose a red that's got some browns and maybe even some grays in that to look like barn wood. So it just helps you be an even better artist when you're picking your colors for making your cross stitch. Some of the places that I've found, if you have a local stitching store, go check it out in person, because just like hand-dyed yarns, there's nothing better than seeing it all in person. If you if you don't have a local stitching shop, a cross-stitch shop, or a needle workshop, go to 123 Stitch or Down Sunshine Lane. Those are two places that have a nice selection of hand-dyed fabrics and hand-dyed flosses. So Weeks Dye Works is a company. There's also a hand-dyed company called Georgiana, which I think is silks, and I know it's kind of hard to see. That's not a solid gray. There's definitely different shades of gray in that one. You really see it play out when you're stitching. So thank you for that question, or those two questions, Erin. I hope I answered them okay. Kimberly of Kimberly's Knitting Garden, she just started her own podcast. Check her out. She's kind of a neighbor of mine down the road, maybe an hour down the road. She does some really great projects. She asked, what makes yarns better for knitting on your machine versus hand knitting? And I did mention that last week, and I didn't explain, or last time. I am by far not a professional machine knitter, but what I'm finding is I can see why a lot of times, especially in the 80s and 90s, that's where a lot of the materials are from when it comes to machine knitting. I have not yet found a really good source for high quality. What I'm finding is if I see an estate sale and they say they have coned yarn, it's usually all acrylic. And I'm still trying to find sources that might sell coned yarn in the yarns that I enjoy, the more natural fibers. I tried to run a fingering weight with just little tweety bits through my machine, and you know, of course, I should have known. It's just harder for your carriage to slide across the needles, and it makes sense if you've got little bits of something stopping you all along the way. I ended up making the socks and they turned out fine, but the process wasn't very fun. So I'm finding that smoother yarns do much better. I'm also finding that worsted spun yarns by far do better than woolen spun. If you remember a few episodes back, I tried to put some woolen spun through and it just kept breaking. Of course it did, because your yarn has to be pretty strong to withstand that carriage running back and forth. Whereas when you're hand knitting, you can be a lot more gentle. So the smooth factor, the strong factor, those are really the two main things that make yarns better for the machine so far, from what I've seen. So I hope that helps and answers your question, Kimberly. And the last question I had, well, actually it was a want. Darcy would love to hear more about my spinning. And I thought I would just share with you a tool that I got maybe it's been a couple years ago now. When I first started spinning, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had a drop spindle that was made with a CD. It was just a way to see if I'd enjoy spindling, I guess is what you'd call it. And I just could not get the hang of it. I didn't know how to draft yet. It was just, I was turned off by it. After that, I ended up getting a wooden spindle and trying that, and it just wasn't something for me. I know a lot of people find it very relaxing, but I just found it frustrating. But I still love the idea of creating my own yarns. So I don't know where I heard about this Kickstarter. Electric Eel is the name of the wheel that was on Kickstarter. It was a very inexpensive spinning wheel that was being created. If you go to electriceelwheel.com, I think, you just Google that, you'll get a website. And so I ended up purchasing the electric eel wheel because I thought for the price, if I didn't like it, if I didn't like spinning, it wasn't too much of an investment that I had wasted. And I found that with spinning, there's a lot that goes on at the same time that you have to learn how to get used to. There's the treadling with your feet, there's the drafting with your hands, and then there's also getting your wheel to pull in the fiber that you're drafting and spin at a certain ratio that all those things work together in tandem and create the yarn. And if one thing is off, your yarn's going to break out of your hand, it's going to be too overspun. There's just a lot to balance with. And this electric eel wheel, I didn't have to deal with the treadling, and I could just focus, and I could, there's a dial on here that is goes from slower to faster in an S spin, or if you go this way, it's a Z spin for plying. So I just started really slow on here with a kind of a medium pull, which I forget, is it Scotch tension? That's just, this is the way it's tensioned with this little dial. It was just so much easier for me to learn on this wheel. It's such a nice little wheel, and I know that the makers of this are going through another production of it, and I want to say it's under $100 now, and it's going to be made out of like a plastic kind of material, which I enjoy. I mean, the wood it's plywood. It's not like fancy wood. It's an inexpensive wheel, but it has worked so well for me, and I have to tell you, I am spinning on it right now some Targhee. Let me see if I have I was going to share with this later, but I mean, it just spins up wonderfully. I have so much fun on this electric eel wheel. The last couple spins I've done on my regular wheel, which is the Kiwi, Ashford Kiwi, but I have to say, you know, I was having some knee issues, and I love the electric wheel. So check that out if that's something that you might be interested in. I'll show you the fiber. It's a Targhee fiber. I've done such wild colors that I'm excited to do kind of this, almost looks like a camouflage color, grays and greens and browns. It's something I purchased at Rhinebeck Into the World. I am loving their fiber. And like I said, it's Targhee. They call it Mud Bogs and Moonshine. I'll probably have this spin done next time we get together and chat, and I'll talk a little bit more about Targhee during that episode. But the plan is to just do a 2-ply. So I'm fractally spinning it. And what I did is I just took the bat and I just split it in half, and I spun one half. I'm going to spin the other half in the other direction, and then I'll do a 2-ply. Same as what I've been doing with the others. Next, I would like to try a 3-ply. Okay, so anyways, thank you so much for those questions. I thought I'd just give you, that was just a little overview on my spinning world and kind of where I'm at. This, what I'm wearing today, is Andrea Mowry's Shift, which I'm calling Drift because I started it during a snowstorm here in Michigan. This is my hand spun. This is my first item, I think, that I've ever knit with my own hand spun. It took 2 skeins of my hand spun. Each skein was about 200 yards, 250 yards. And then I used a gradient pack of just that blue color gradient. It started with a light blue and went to a darker blue, and in it were some pinks as well. That was from, well, the information is all on my Ravelry page, but it's just hot off the blocking mat. And I couldn't be happier. This is so fun and so rewarding to use your own hand spun. And this pattern, you'll see a lot of people are using their hand spun for it because, well, originally the pattern was done with spin cycle yarns, which look very much hand spun. It just works well. I love it. Couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier it's done though, because I have to say the actual knitting of it was kind of a slog. I don't know if I just really wanted the end product so badly, but I just found it was hard to get through, kind of boring, monotonous. After the first couple inches when I saw my hand spun being knit up and how cool I thought it was looking, then I just got bored with it. But the end result I love. I love that it's just a cowl that I can pull up and over. It looks good once I put it on. I don't have to fuss with it. There is a shawl version out there of this, but Andrea Mowry, the Shift cowl, or is it just called Shift? I'm calling it Drift. Another thing that I finished, this was a machine knit. Did I show this last time? I don't know if I did. I just was in the mood to do something quick on my machine, on my knitting machine. I have a white 1502, which is made in France. It's a vintage machine. It is a 5mm machine, if there's anybody out there that machine knits. I know I do have some new followers that machine knit. And I wanted to practice doing the fisherman's rib, because on my machine, all I have to do is push the front and back carriages, push 2 buttons instead of 1 button, if that makes sense. Just push the tuck and the circular at the same time, and you get this gorgeous ribbed fisherman's rib fabric. It's squishy, kind of like brioche. And this fabric is actually, or this fiber is from Sun Valley Fibers. It's Deep Stash that I had in their merino cashmere silk blend. So this is just heaven around the neck. It's in their tomato salsa colorway, or tomato sauce colorway. I love it, and I think I will be running a few more yarns that I need around my neck from my stash into this fisherman's rib. On my machine, to do the fisherman's rib, you have to use the front and the back carriages, and you run it through. First you do a cast on a 1x1 rib, and I did it using, I believe, 60 needles, and then I just put it in the fisherman's rib mode, and I just knit through all of the 2 skeins of yarn that I had. So that was, how many yards? Yeah, 800 yards. Wow, that took a lot of yarn. So you know it's gotta be squishy, right? With all that yarn in there. And then I just did, when I bound off, I actually knit it off with some waste yarn, and then I picked up the stitches and bound off on my own, because I'm still not confident binding off on my machine, but I will get there. Yeah, really simple scarf. Super happy about that. What else do I have done? Oh, okay, so when I was in Napa, I mentioned we went to that yarn store, Napa's Yarns on First, owner is Marcy, and I really wanted to get something from that store. How lucky was I that they had something I wanted to try from Blue Sky Fibers. Many years ago, I knit a baby blanket out of, at the time they were called Blue Sky Alpacas, and they had a cotton yarn. I think it had some wool in it, but it was a washable yarn, and that is the most, it is my favorite baby blanket I've ever knit. And they always have great colors too. Well, now they're called Blue Sky Fibers, makes more sense, and they have what's called wool stock, which is a worsted weight fine Highland wool. There it is. And I got a few skeins of it. I'll show you the colors that I got because I wanted to make a hat. My friend Lori was doing a hat, and that inspired me to do the hat. And I thought these colors were so cool together. This is a dustier pink than it's looking, and this bright green and this really dark, dark, dark blue. It almost reads black. If I pull back a bit, you can see. And I ended up knitting this hat right here. I'll just take it off the mannequin. What pattern did I use? I used a free pattern on Ravelry. I forget the name, I'll put it here. And I used the motif. I did a little bit of a different number just to tighten up. Basically what I did is I cast on 105 and did the rib, and then when I knit into here I increased the number of stitches so it would match the motif. Used the colors, and I don't know, I guess I could put it on. Looks dumb with glasses, but there it is. I think the colors are awesome. I love them. And what I really liked about the wool stock is that you could buy really big skeins of yarn, and let me just pull their tags. So they sell skeins that have 370 yards of worsted weight for $23. And this is amazing wool. It's soft to the skin. It's woolly wool, so you can get the big skeins. But then they sell mini skeins. They're not really minis. Let me see here. This skein is 123 yards, and I really only used a little bit of pink in my hat. This is what I have left. But how nice for color work that you can get these large skeins for the main color, and then you don't have to buy large skeins for the color work. So go check out Woolstock. I loved this yarn, and I loved all their colors that they had, and enjoyed how the hat turned out. I have enough yarn. I would like to make some mittens, I think, to match with this motif, and maybe even a scarf. I'm not sure. I did also get the same, I got the same wool stock in this gray color, and I thought for my son I might make him or one of my, maybe both my sons will get a hat, but I thought these were good guy colors for hats for them. Wanted to show you my finished skein of the colorway Zenith by Hidden Valley Farms. It's Coopworth, which I shared with you on the last episode, a little bit about the Coopworth sheep. It is a really rustic wool that I think I am going to end up using for a crochet pattern and make some sort of basket or bowl with it. I ended up getting, this is about 215 grams, and I got about 250 yards. How is that possible? It seems like I should have a lot more. I think I need to recount because this is a really big yarn baby. Anyways, that is the skein. Greens and oranges and some dark blues. Really cool color combination for sure. Okay, one last finished object I want to share with you is, I framed it on my own, my cross stitch, my first back into cross stitch with the sheep, and I really like that hymn, Sing to the Lord a New Song. I had a lot of fun doing this stitch. This is a stitch I'm going to put down here by whom, and just kind of got me into the stitching. I changed it around and made the sheep all different colors because we know sheep come in all different natural colors. The original pattern just had it all in that cream color. So I picked kind of a barnwoody type of frame, and I'm going to have my husband put on the back just a little picture hanging thing. I didn't want to spend a lot of money framing this because I don't know. I just wanted to see it framed. It's not my best work. There are some issues with it, but I'm the only one that can probably see those right now. So all I did was take a picture frame from Hobby Lobby, got it with my 40% coupon. I took my piece, and I got some of that sticky board that they sell at Hobby Lobby. It says it's acid-free. I know it's very controversial out there in the stitching world about that stuff, but for me, I thought I would just give it a whirl, and that was so easy to use. This is an 8x10 frame, and I could buy an 8x10 piece of the sticky board. So I literally followed the directions, slapped it on, pressed it down so it was nice and there were no wrinkles or bubbles, and then put it in the frame. And right now it looks like this in the back with just some washi tape. I know a lot of times what professional framers do is they actually stitch it on a piece of board and frame it professionally. And maybe someday I'll do that. But for now, I picked out this frame. It kind of looks like barn. I thought it went well with the, especially with that brownish, light brownish sheep in there, and just the idea that it's country barnwood. Yeah, so that's how I finished it. So those are my finished objects from the last few weeks. I mentioned on last week's episode, I love how Pam and Steph from Just Keep Stitching ring their little bell when they show their finished objects. And I would like to celebrate the liberation of my works in progress with my Liberty Bell. Happy finishes, everyone. Now, works in progress. I have one works in progress I'm going to share with you today. And if you'll recall, it's been about a year. This is Sven of Sven and Solveig, who I'm actually calling Soren, who is my great-grandfather, my great Norwegian grandfather, and he has been without his wife for a year now. So I thought it was time that Soren got his wife, Jenny, and Jenny was born. Jenny is flat, like Flat Stanley right now, but I'm hoping that when I fill her, she looks a little more like a good partner for Soren. This is a pattern that is an old classic, and I thought I had, of course it fell. The pattern was revigorated by the lovely Susan B. Anderson, who made her own versions of Sven and Solveig, and then created a PDF file on her blog about what changes she made. And then her company, Barrett Wool Company, came out with a kit. And last year sometime I bought the kit. I love her yarn. It is a woolly yarn, but soft. Works so well with color work. Look at that sweater. Look at Jenny's sweater here. This is actually folded up for some reason, but I am now working on her skirt, and then I'll work on her colored stockings, and I will give her some braids. Finally, I think I'm going to give her a kerchief. I don't think I'm going to put a hat on her, so that's how she'll be different. I am different than Susan's. I'm working on using my zings, my size 3 zings, which I absolutely love for this project. I normally like magic loop, but with Susan's modifications and the pattern, it just lends itself numbers-wise better to use DPNs, so I'm having fun using DPNs for a change. So we've talked about stitching I'm doing, we've talked about knitting, we've talked about machine knitting. I have made some progress on my cross stitch, my silent night stitch. I'm feeling I'm sensing a pattern here. I'm really liking these stitches that are based on songs. So this is A Silent Night by Country Cottage Needleworks. You can really see the church I finished since the last time we were together, and I've started some trees and some of those snowflakes, which are really, they were a challenge to stitch at first, but then I got the hang of it, and I love how the church turned out. Now you can see the white and the gray. That is one skein of hand dyed. That's that skein I showed you earlier. I love how that worked up. And I ended up stitching it horizontally. If you stitched it vertically, it would look like up and down slats. I kind of liked the side-by-side slats. And I just am having a lot of fun with this. This is a Belfast linen, I think a 28 count. I've lost the tag. It is a hand-dyed fabric. I wanted it to look like it was at night time. I think that the colors really pop well on it. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. So now I just have more snowflakes to do, the top border and some trees, and Silent Night, Holy Night will be stitched up on top as well. By now you know that KnitCrate sends me every month their subscription for their standard membership KnitCrate and their sock crate. I look forward to getting them every month. I wanted to share with you February in case you were interested. Check out February's sock crate. Look at this yarn. I love the colors. It's called Snow Stylish, and it does look like a snowsuit from the 80s. Totally, I think. Maybe I had a friend of mine had a snowsuit these colors. I don't know. But I love this base. This is the base that if you'll recall, a few weeks ago, I shared the socks. They were socks that I did on the machine that patterned out in what looked like an argyle on the rib. And then it was a really cool micro stripe down the leg and the foot. This is the same base. I'm not sure if it's dyed the same, but it sure looks similar to the last skein. I love this base because when you wash it, it gets so soft. And I think it's because there's 10% cashmere in it. It's a superwash merino wool, 15% nylon, 10% cashmere. I love this base. So here's the colorway for February. And then the membership crate did not disappoint either. I'm so excited about this color. This was one of my favorite colors when I was growing up. I used to call it periwinkle. I don't know what color you would call it other than blue, but they're calling it electric abalone. And this is the Audine Wool's Halo DK, which I got last year. This same base too. It is such a soft base of baby alpaca, wool, and nylon. These would be really fun. This is a DK weight. These would be really fun slipper socks. But they'd also be something, you could make a cowl. And in fact, the patterns I'll show you are both cowls, the crochet and the knit. I love the tonal quality of this and the soft. I always test alpaca on my neck because that's where I get the prickliness. And I don't get that feeling from this at all. So I'm actually thinking about holding these double and making a kind of super bulky weight and making the Durand cowl. I'll put a picture in here. I think this would be really, really fun for a Durand cowl. So each KnitCrate box comes with this awesome booklet that has all of the patterns for all of their crates. And I will just show you. This is Scaling Scalene. This is the crochet cowl, or is it maybe it's a shawl. And then this is, these are the two colors. You get one of those two colors, and there's my blue, and here's the green. The green is gorgeous too. And what a beautiful, doesn't that look like a little bit of like tulips almost? But what a beautiful lace pattern. Yeah. Doesn't she look happy in that picture? She's cracking me up. What a pose. Oh, let's see. What else is in here? And then this is the sock pattern. Look at how wild those socks are. That is how the colorway, that looks like a different, I mean, it's similar but not. I don't know. Maybe that's what it turns out to look like. But look at those cool micro stripes. I don't know if I'm sold on that pattern with this. I'm excited to run these through my machine. This would be a cool hat too. All right, so check those out. As usual, I do have a link down below, 20% off your first order. I love KnitCrate. Thank you, KnitCrate, for including me in on these boxes. I totally appreciate it. I have one purchase outside of Napa that I made online, Super Bowl Sunday. I saw on Instagram, Chelsea made a post in her Instagram stories that Sue was dyeing up a special secret colorway on Super Bowl Sunday. I think it was Sue's super secret Super Bowl Sunday colorway. I thought it sounded like a lot of fun. So I joined in because I love everything Sue does. And here is the skein of her Super Bowl Sunday secret skein. It's got purples, blues, grays, maybe not, yeah, blues, grays, all on that creamy white. Actually, I think it's a light gray. I'll hold it still there. I think it would go really, really nicely, pardon my reach, with my Legacy Fiber Arts and it's in Cozy Toes. The super secret skein was also Cozy Toes, which is the merino cashmere nylon. But I happen to have 2 skeins of this plaid flannel and thought that would be kind of cool together. Anyways, just thought I'd show you that as well. What a fun idea. I kind of hope Sue has a few more of those super secret sales. Well, I think we've reached the end. So for those of you who have gotten through my entire episode, thank you. And I wanted to just do a super secret giveaway. So if you've gotten to the end of this, I would like for you, don't mention giveaway down below in the comment section, but just tell me what your favorite local yarn store is that you like to go to in your area. Let's kind of share the local yarn store love down below. Just kind of mention the city and the name of the store, and you will have a chance to win a pattern of your choice on Ravelry, a single pattern under $6. I will gift that to you in Ravelry. I will just do a random draw down below. So let me know in the comment section again, name of the shop in your area. Let's spread the love, the local yarn store love. They need our support. They definitely need our support. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for following me. If you are not a subscriber, and I have noticed that half of the people who watch my shows are not subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button. It just helps me find other people like you, just to have a good time sharing the love of the fiber arts world. I hope that I see you on the next episode of Treehouse Knits. Bye.